Hello, community. It is great to be with you all. We've been talking about the way of the river for quite a while now, but I just wanted to do a video here to share more with you because I think hearing it, talking about it can be helpful. And so the goal of this is to help us all learn how to steer through calm and rapid waters of life. So we all start life in this metaphor on the top of a mountain, and we're coming down the river. We're all in a kayak. And life is kind of flowing by us as we go. There are kind of beautiful scenes that we get to experience. There are kind of neutral gray days, and then there are difficult things we hit. Usually those difficult things are rocks. Sometimes they're just minor jams. Other times they're more significant. But as we learn how to navigate the river and manage the rocks, we're better able to problem solve, and we can better follow the current. And so one of the key insights is that the rocks are our teachers. We do not learn how to become master kayakers in life when it's just smooth and easy and beautiful. The Stoics had a great point. They have it. Some books on this are called "The Obstacle is the Way." I like the saying, "The problem is the path." And the point here is that you have to steer into the challenges and kind of trust the current. Oftentimes, the things we most want to avoid end up holding the most important lessons for us. And so it isn't that it's not an option to avoid the rocks in life. We're all going to hit the rocks. It's how do you go through it and master them? And so these are just a few slides on what this kind of looks like. So anything you're kind of starting to do, be a parent, get married, launch a business, it all looks like, hey, this is the best idea ever. It's going to be fun. And then whenever you're doing a new enterprise, it just kind of goes down this slope of getting more and more challenging, but you have to persevere. And then as you do, you start realizing, oh, this is going to be better. And then eventually you're like really proud of it. This is kind of a famous startup way of looking at it. It's the same thing. So before your startup, you have this great idea. You think, this is going to work and it's going to be great. Reality sets in, you crash, and then you have these kind of wiggles of hope. Then you finally start figuring it out, and then you go up the scale. This is a pretty smart one here by, oh God, I can't remember the guy's name now, but an insightful guy. And it's the same model here. You see it starts with joy. Awesome. Let's do this. The crash. But what I like about this model is it's very clear that life is all about ups and downs. The general slope can be up, where the general slope can be down. If it's up, you kind of learn to optimize the ups. So every time you get a win, you kind of celebrate it, share it. And we do this in our community with shout outs. And, you all are awesome at encouraging one another. And then when you're in the downs, you just endure. It's like you just say, okay, I know this is going to be tough for time, but I'm going to get through it and I'll be up again. And sure enough, you'll be up again. And you can look back retrospectively on your life. Historically, you can see this kind of pattern. So I just share these three as examples of basically pretty much every life follows this sort of process. And this is just another visual, what people often present, hey, my life is just this kind of linear success, but it's really just not accurate. Life actually looks like this. There's all kinds of, one step forward, two steps back, two steps forward, one step back. And oftentimes we can't really see, the lessons that we're learning when we're in it, but when we look back, we can. So just to dive a little bit deeper into the Stoic idea, the unexpected problem is the path. The most important problem is often the one you didn't plan for. So I think of this as Mr. 8. So every week in my life, I have a list of items that I want to get done, and some of these are challenges or problems that I'm trying to solve. So let's say I have 7 problems in front of me, and I'm eager to work on those 7 problems. But Mr. 8, the 8th problem, jumps to the front of the line, And what I often do is say, okay, Mr. 8, I hear you, I got you, but you're Mr. 8. So I've got 7 problems in front of you that I want to solve. But Mr. 8 doesn't listen, right? So Mr. 8 just keeps popping back to the front. And so eventually I yield and I say, okay, Mr. 8, what's going on? And sure enough, I listen. This is a little bit like the Aunt Maggie ACT metaphor. You have the aunt that's knocking on the door, and she won't leave, and then she's knocking on the window, and then eventually you realize she's never going to quit. So you open the door, you give her a cup of tea, and she sits down and she explains the problem to you. And when you listen to the problem, at the very end, she gives you this little golden nugget, this little bit of insight or truth that you've been looking for. And Mr. 8 is the same way. When we do finally yield to the adversity, to the challenge, to the problem, we realize, oh, this has been super important for my growth. It's been a key lesson that I wouldn't have otherwise figured out. This is Ray Dalio's. He's written a whole book on reflections on this, but I think this is the best one. Pain plus reflection equals progress. And again, I wish this wasn't the formula for life, but it seems like it is. We all are going to hit the rocks. We're all going to have pain. And if you can reflect on that pain in kind of a non-defensive way, then you can begin to make progress. And so another kind of key insight here is that sometimes the wrong current takes you to the right place. This is similar to the Mr. 8 idea, but if you imagine life as a sort of river, right? So some of the time we're in the river, we're on our kayak, right? And we really want to go. We see this beautiful, spot up ahead. Maybe it's under a big shady tree. Maybe there's sun coming through the trees. Maybe there's a nice little patch of grass. And so we paddle like crazy to get there. And sometimes we go against the current. The current wants to pull us left, but we go right. And then we get there. And then when we get there, we realize that it's not quite the beautiful place that we thought it was going to be. It's not what we were looking for. And instead, sometimes the current, sometimes we're just tired and we yield and we just let the current take us. And it looks like it's taking us, maybe to a place we don't really want to go. It doesn't look all that beautiful, but then around the next curve, the next bend of the river, we see this beautiful place that we never would have expected to see. We would never have expected to, that there would be just this wonderful place along the river. And that's where the current takes us. And so the point here is that trusting the journey is more important than controlling the destination. And again, not that's easy. And I like the saying here, my entire life can be described in one sentence. Well, that didn't go as planned. And so while we're hitting rocks, while we're hitting these challenges and we're kind of stuck on, because again, if you're going down the river and you hit a set of rocks, but you don't learn the lesson, as soon as you break free and you get going down the river again, you're going to hit another similar set of rocks. So life is just going to keep bringing you the rocks until you just open up and learn the lesson. And so part of that is, one reason we avoid the rocks is because they bring up pain. They feel hurtful. They feel challenging. They remind us of old wounds. And so one very simple practice is to practice forgiveness. So when you're in the rocks, just try to imagine, okay, this is hurtful. This is painful. What does this remind me of in my past? And probably a person will come up to your mind, or a situation or an issue. And if you can just kind of deliberately say, okay, when you forgive somebody, it doesn't mean you have to accept them or open the door to them walking on you again. You're just kind of letting go of them. You're emotionally and psychologically letting go of them. So you don't have to be tethered to them. And that's actually super freeing. It's good for you and it's good for them. But if you bring it up and you bring that image up or that person up or that issue up and you just say, okay, I choose to forgive them. I choose to let go. So in addition to forgiving the person from the past, you may also want to forgive yourself if you played an active role in this. And what that means is giving yourself grace, understanding that we're all human, we all make mistakes. You don't get to get through this life without making a lot of mistakes and dropping a lot of balls. And it's good to forgive yourself. So just like letting go of that other person that hurt you, kind of letting go of that with yourself too, and understanding, hey, I'm human. It's going to be a part of the process. So after that, you come back to the present moment, back to the rocks that you're currently on. There's probably a frustrating person or an annoying person who's bothering you, and try to forgive them too. And so when you do this process of forgiving the current person, forgiving the past person, and forgiving yourself, this kind of triangle, it allows you to get back on the open water again. You get unhooked, you get untethered, and you can move forward. So to me, personal growth is really a journey of leveling up. And psychologists have built stages and processes for decades here. Erik Erikson's is probably the main one. And you can really see it like a set of stairs. So as you go up, you become more mature. Usually you move from a place of being rigid to a place of being flexible. And most of the time, you have to solve a crisis on one level before moving to the next level. And crisis just means like a major problem. And so along the lines of what we've been talking about, every problem you solve allows you to move to the next level. You can think of this like a video game. So a video game, you start off on level 1, and then you don't necessarily jump from level 1 to level 27. You move from level 1 to level 2 to level 3. And that's really how I see life unfolding, where we're given problems are cooked up and sent our way, and we have to solve them in order to move up this process, like you can see here in this one. Now, there's a guy, Hawkins, who's an interesting person, and he's mapped out kind of levels of growth. And so you start off at the bottom, maybe fear, shame, anger, and then you move up towards love, joy, and peace. And how we move up these levels, I believe, is through solving problems. Every time we solve a problem, we make compounding gains, we graduate, and we move into a new way of being. So maybe I move from pride into courage, and then up to willingness, and up to acceptance. Now, this process is not easy. It involves breaking down of the ego, or breaking down of your sense of self and feeling like, hey, I've got to control everything. And what happens is when there's a problem, oftentimes we have to come to terms with our own limitations, that we can't really solve things on our own. We have to say, hey, I made a mistake and I'm sorry. So we have to apologize. So this kind of process of humility opens you up more, and that makes space for more generosity, more peace, and a sense of love. And that's how you kind of level up. Now, I'm not going to go too much into this, but broadly, there's force and then there's power. And so force is when you have to try to make things happen. You have to kind of push on things. Maybe you feel like you have to manipulate things to move them forward. Power, on the other hand, is a nonlinear process. You're more like a magnet. You're more attracting to people rather than pushing people. And when you think about the great humanitarians, people like Gandhi, MLK, they have a real powerful sense of them. Like, people want to follow them. They don't have big advertising campaigns and PR budgets and, an army of executives moving them forward. They just have a natural gravitas. People just like them. They want to follow them. These are people who have a sense of power. Force, you have to keep putting the coins in. You have to keep spending the money. You have to keep advertising. You have to keep pushing, because as soon as you stop, it doesn't work. And so it's much better to be on the power end of the continuum than the force end of the continuum. Now, as you level up, as you move through those levels, you get more options. And it seems counterintuitive, but as we've been discussing, the Stoics, again, you don't need to have a great big plan in life. You just need to solve the next biggest problem in front of you. And as you do, you get to leave the current kind of mental trap or mental prison. You get to move forward. And when you don't have a lot of resources, when you're on the lower end of things, it can feel like I'm in prison, I'm trapped, I'm stuck in this cul-de-sac. How do I get out of this? And like there's not a lot of options. But as you move up, you've solved problems, you've figured things out, and as you've done that, you've become more and more resilient or anti-fragile. Now, something that can help with this process is toggling between the experiencing self and the observing self. So there's an image here of a cloud in the sky. So sometimes we can get wrapped up in the actual issue we're struggling with. So let's say I'm anxious, I'm worried about work, or I'm worried about a relationship. That's the cloud. And if I identify with that particular issue, that's my experiencing self. That's the only thing I can really think about. But I can zoom back and I can understand, hey, wait a second, I'm the sky. And I can observe the clouds. I don't have to identify with the clouds. Another way of thinking about this is like a chessboard. We can identify as being a chess piece on the board with limited capabilities or limited options, or we can understand that we're the actual chess board. And we have much more options and we can observe things from a further place. And so it can be helpful to think about toggling, so moving from one to the other. And so it's just helpful to know I'm not my thoughts. I'm not my emotions. You know, Singer asks, are you in there? Who are you in there that's watching? So we're not our thoughts. We're not our emotions. We're kind of the observing self that's happening behind those things that can see the cloud in the sky. We're more the sky than the cloud. And so he has this very interesting process to help you remain in that observing, that wise state of mind. And whenever an issue comes up, don't try to fight it. Just notice it. Just label it. Just see it. And then relax. Consciously relax any tension in your body. You can do a progressive muscle relaxation if you want. And then let it go. Just let it float away like a cloud in the sky. Don't try to grab it. Don't try to control it. Don't try to fix it. Just let it flow through you and it will pass. And if you do that enough times, you gradually spend less time in that experiencing self, that worried, frantic self, and much more in the observing, wise self. One of my favorite authors is Nassim Taleb. He wrote this book called Antifragile. And what he says is, imagine I give you a box with wine glasses and you have to mail those to France. You might put a stamp that's called fragile on that box. Now, we don't really have a word for the opposite of fragile in English, but you might put on that box, stomp on me, throw me, kick me, punch me. And the idea is that that's the opposite of fragile. That's anti-fragile. And so when life is pushing us on the rocks, all of those rocks, even though they're difficult, they're giving us information. When life hits you and somebody hits you, they're giving you information. And if you can kind of zoom back into that wise sense of self, observe it, you can put your head down, you can know you're going to endure it, you know you're going to get through it. You're going to learn and grow and become stronger on the other side of it. It might not seem like it when you're going through it, but you will. And as you evolve, as you get stronger, you move up those levels and you have more options. Instead of feeling like, man, I can only do this, I'm so stuck, you level up. And then soon you can see, oh, I've got 4 different options that I couldn't see before. And then you level up again and you see, I've got 8 options. And you just keep getting more and more options and more flexibility as you strengthen yourself. Another good word for this is post-traumatic growth. Just like when something hits us and we go through a challenge, we are stronger on the other side. It's not just about surviving or being resilient. It's the benefits, like you actually get benefits from figuring out the problem. Now, we've been talking a lot about just our individual selves in this process, but I think grace, the idea of grace as a current is an important idea to understand. So as you level up, you also become more humble because you realize, wow, I've been bailed out a lot in life. There's many things that should have went sideways that didn't go sideways, or maybe I was on the river and things broke my way more than they should. And I think it's important to understand that we're not just isolated, no man is an island. We're connected. And I believe there's a sense of love, a sense of kindness that helps to guide us. And if you can catch that current, if you can catch that grace current, it can carry you further than you can go on your own. And certainly that's the case with Seven Cups. We've had a lot of grace. It's basically been a series of miracles. The thing is impossible that it even exists. And that's because we were able to catch those currents. And Steve Jobs has a good quote: you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. So you can't, when you're in it, it's really hard to think this is going to make sense. This is going to be an important lesson that's going to be helpful to me. I'm going to need this down the road. But you can think now, looking back, man, there's been some chapters, there's been some tough spots, there's been some dark nights of the soul, and I can see the connections that actually made me who I am. So if you keep that in mind when you're on the rocks, you can project that same sense of hope or faith moving forward. Okay, so to close us out, there's a couple of questions here. One is, what was one key insight that stood out to you today? How can understanding it impact your life for the better? So just think about this video, think about our conversation. If there was one thing that really spoke to you, just go back to that part in the video, listen to it again, and don't judge yourself, but just allow your mind to unfold, allow your mind to marinate or percolate on these ideas, and then just write down what's insightful and how it might help you. And the second thing, very consistently with this whole teaching, is think about a current rock you're facing. We all have rocks in life. We can't avoid them. It's how we grow. Which one have you been resisting? What would it look like to see it not as an obstacle, but as a lesson that's designed to teach you something on your path, designed to help you level up? That there's a gift. There's a gift in that problem. There's a gift in that rock that's specifically designed to help you. Percolate on that too, marinate on that too. Okay, thank you all for spending time with me. I will be back with part 2 before too long. Talk soon.